Woolly and wee woolly, they are Woodrow Wilson sheep. Woolly and wee woolly, they are the White House sheep.
Friends, I am so excited. I have a special treat for you guys today. We are being allowed to see the presidential limousine and go for a drive. This is President Wilson's 1919 Pierce-Arrow. We will even have a chance to speak with a person who cares for this priceless artifact. But before we can go for a drive, let me give you a little history about the car. This car was waiting for President and Mrs. Wilson and Washington, D.C. train station when they returned from Paris, France. President Wilson had been in Paris working on a peace treaty to end World War I. The date was July 8, 1919. I did a little digging and I found out that President Wilson enjoyed this car so much that after he left the job of the president, 4 of his friends from Princeton, where he went to school, bought him this car for $3,000. Let's take a look inside of the car before we meet Andrew, our curator friend. Notice the orange pinstripes and the orange on the wheels. The orange was for President Wilson's beloved Princeton, where he was a student, professor, and eventually the president of the school. I love the front of the car. Since there was no windshield wipers, there was a glass window that would open out and keep all the elements from affecting the driver. Here's our friend Andrew. Andrew, we are looking at the front of the car. If the window was open, wouldn't it be cold?
It sure would. It'd be very cold. There was no heat, and there was no air conditioning either to cool them off in the summer. So in the winter, they would have really heavy coats on. They would have nice thick lap blankets that they would wear, and sometimes they would get a heated brick, and that would help to keep the president's feet warm on those drives.
So Andrew, how often did Woodrow Wilson drive in this car?
Well, this was one of his favorite things to do, and he would take a drive out in this car almost every day. He didn't drive himself, he had the chauffeur do it, but he loved to go over the bridge into Virginia and sort of drive around the Arlington Heights down to Mount Vernon. He loved Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. And he also had this car take him to some of his absolute favorite spots, and those included the baseball stadiums where he watched the Senators play, as well as Keith's Vaudeville Theater in D.C.
Oh man, I love baseball and theater. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Woodrow Wilson was a huge baseball fan, and especially later in his life, after he had been sick, he couldn't really get up into the grandstands the way he might want, and so because he was a former president, they gave him some special consideration, and he actually got to park his car in the outfield, on the other side of the foul line, of course, not in the way of the players, but that way he could sit in the car in comfort and still be able to see the whole game. They wanted to make sure, though, that everything was safe, and so they would have a baseball player posted at the front of the car to make sure that any foul balls wouldn't hit the president's car.
So Andrew, you have some pretty cool behind-the-scenes knowledge. Can we take a look inside the car?
We absolutely can. Let me open the door for you. So inside this car, there's lots of special features. It includes a couple of jump seats so that you can have more people sitting in the back. It has a wheel on the right-hand side because this car was supposed to be driven by a chauffeur, and that makes it easier for the chauffeur to pull right up to the curb. It also has this great partition. Each of these windows in the back compartment, they have a little shade that you can close if you wanted some privacy, if you wanted to have a private conversation. And that includes a partition between the passengers and the driver. Though from what we know, Wilson never really had that up. He liked to chat with the driver. But one of the important things about that is that this car, especially if you have the windows open to get a little bit of cool air, it's going to be kind of noisy. And so there's this very handy intercom system. There's a little button on the back that Wilson could, it was both a buzzer and an intercom, so we could talk to the driver or just give him a couple of little beeps to let him know if you wanted him to turn right or left or to stop.
So Andrew, what is the symbol that's on the front of the car here?
Well, that is the AAA logo, and it's the same AAA that we still have around nowadays. Back then, it was all about drivers helping drivers. It was kind of encouraging people to use cars. Now, if you're having some trouble on the side of the road, you can whip out your cell phone and give AAA a call, and they'll send someone to help you. But back then, you didn't really have the cell phone, and so it meant that this car would stop if they saw someone who was in need of help and try to help if they could. And for this car especially, it really meant that the chauffeur would get out and help rather than President Wilson.
That's really cool. What about this eagle that's on the top of it?
Well, that's to help show that this is a presidential car. You couldn't just have a normal hood ornament like that one if you're president. If this, on a normal Pierce-Arrow, a everyday Pierce-Arrow, it would have been an Archer. Really cool looking logo, but being the president, you get a little special combination.
That's so cool. So that's why there's a symbol on the side of the door, too.
That's right. That is the presidential seal, and it, again, helps to show that this is a very important car carrying a very important person.
So, Andrew, can I go for a ride in the car?
You absolutely can. Are you ready to go?
Yes, let's go.
Right, let's hop in.
Well, that was super fun, and they even let me into the driver's seat. Thanks to Andrew Phillips, our curator, and the Pierce-Arrow Committee for helping keep the car in tip-top shape. Everybody have a great day, and see you next time.